My wife promised her son, without telling me, that he could run my business after college to convince him to enroll. Now he's graduated and furious that I'm not handing it over. I'm 52. I married 2 years ago, after 3 years of dating. My wife is 50. She has a son from her previous marriage. Let's call him Joe, 21, who just got a business degree. Joe and I get along, but we're not best friends, and we definitely don't have a father-son relationship. His dad, my wife's ex, is still in his life, and they see each other a lot, so it's not like Joe is missing out because he and I aren't super close. Here's the problem. My wife promised her son he could take over my business right after he graduated. I own a successful catering company that I inherited from my father when he passed. I've been running it for almost 20 years, not counting the years we ran it together before he died. I have zero intention of stepping away, at least not until retirement, and that's a long way off. I have no idea why my wife thought it was a good idea to promise Joe control of my business without even talking to me. Last week we were at his graduation party, and later that evening he took us out to dinner. That's when this came up. While we were eating dessert, Joe started talking about how he wouldn't need to look for an internship or a job like his college friends because he already had a plan. Then he smiled at me. I was confused but smiled back and looked at my wife to explain. She said nothing. We finished dinner and went home since Joe was heading to spend the night with friends. On the way home, I asked my wife what Joe meant about having a plan. She admitted that before he even applied to college, she'd sort of promised him I'd let him take over my business after graduation. I was stunned. I told her she needed to tell him that's not happening, that he's still too young and inexperienced, and I'm not turning the company over that soon, and possibly not ever. I have far more capable, deserving employees who could actually run the place. She started arguing in the car that I was being foolish, that she trusts Joe and he'll do fine if I just give him a chance. I said my father's business isn't something you try. You either can do it or you can't. In my opinion, Joe can't, at least not now. He just graduated, and people his age need to build experience. They're not ready for that kind of pressure. He should get an internship somewhere, and if he performs well, maybe I'll let him work under me. But we're a long way from me handing over the whole business. When I said that, she lost it, called me selfish, and said I wasn't thinking about Joe and his financial future. She said I wasn't acting like a father, and I was only thinking of myself. I told her she's right. I'm not Joe's father, and I don't need to play that role. At that, she blew up, made me stop the car, and got out to walk home. It was only a couple blocks, so I didn't argue. I didn't go straight home either. I hit a bar first because I was upset. I still think she was being unreasonable. I got home around midnight. She was asleep, so we didn't talk that night. In the morning, she acted like everything was fine. I didn't bring it up, but 2 days later Joe called me about the business. I told him straight that his mother never discussed this with me, and if she had, she'd know I'm not handing him the business. He needs to look for a job like his friends, because what his mother promised is not happening. At first, he thought I was joking. It took a while to convince him I wasn't. Looking back, I realize he dropped hints over the past couple of years about taking over, but I always brushed them off as jokes. If I'd known about my wife's promise, I would have shut that down immediately. When I told him no, Joe exploded, yelled that I'd made a false promise and that I was selfish just like his mother, then hung up before I could respond. I was at work, so I didn't call my wife right away. I figured we'd talk that evening. When I got home, she was livid. She didn't even let me take off my coat before she started yelling. Turned out Joe had called her right after speaking with me and tore into her for lying and making him believe he'd get my business after graduation. She blamed me, saying now Joe doesn't trust us and plans to cut us off. I told her it isn't my fault. I didn't promise her son anything, and I certainly didn't promise her. She lied to him for years. Now he gets to decide how to handle that. If my mother lied to me like that, I might cut contact too. She stormed out in tears, said she was going to her sister's. I didn't stop her. I felt awful, but didn't see how I was to blame. It's been 3 days. We haven't talked. Yesterday I thought she was calling, but it was her older sister, just to chew me out. She said my wife has been crying nonstop and feels like she's losing both her son and her husband. I admit, that made me feel like crap. The last thing I wanted was to make my wife cry. Her sister explained that my wife lied because Joe initially didn't want college at all. He wanted to join a band and try music, but my wife wanted him to get a degree. The only way she could think to push him was to promise a ready-made business afterward. She didn't ask me because she knew I'd say no. She hoped that when Joe graduated I'd see how responsible he'd become come and change my mind. She intended to talk to me over the years, but never worked up the courage. She felt she had no right because it's not her business, and Joe isn't my son. I told her sister I understand the motive, worrying about her son's future, but that doesn't justify lying to him or to me. Then her sister said she didn't want to meddle, but my wife is willing to work on the marriage if I apologize for being too harsh with her and Joe. She hung up, and I was left conflicted. I want to make up with my wife, but I don't think I'm at fault. Why should I apologize when she's the one who should? It's been a day since that call, and I still haven't decided what to do. So, aita for telling my stepson plainly that I'm not handing him my business after my wife promised it to him without my knowledge. Before we continue and move to the update, drop your take in the comments and answer the author's question. Personally, like most of you, I'm sure, I don't think he's the A. He did the right thing telling the son straight up that mom fed him nonsense. And as the creator of the channel's Touchy Zab and Blog It, I know how hard it is to part with your baby and hand it to someone else. A business is like a child. You pour yourself into it, live there, and then someone shows up and says, "Give it to me." Most entrepreneurs spend a huge chunk of their lives on their business, so letting go isn't easy. And without putting in that time, you usually don't get success, especially at the start. Anyway, leave your thoughts below. On to the update. Update 1. I decided not to apologize to my wife. After reading comments here, I realized I'm not at fault. If she wanted to convince her son to go to college, there were plenty of smarter, more effective ways than blatantly lying about something she knew would never happen. She had years to come clean and at least talk to me. She didn't, and dropped it all on me only after he graduated. So if she wants to save our marriage, she's going to have to swallow her pride and apologize to me. It's been almost a week since she left. Still nothing from her. No idea what she's thinking or planning. One thing's clear. I'm not going to chase her and beg for forgiveness like I have in the past. She created this mess. She can clean it up. Thanks for the advice. You really helped me think straight. She always does this. She messes up, and I'm the one running after her to keep us together. Not this time. I can't always be the only one putting in the effort. Update 2. It's been almost 2 weeks since she left, and we hadn't spoken. I was about to contact a lawyer because I was sure she wouldn't be back soon. Luckily, she came home this afternoon. She didn't say much yet, but she apologized for her behavior. For now, that's enough for me. I don't know what's happening with her and her son. Judging by how sad she is, I doubt she's fixed it. Honestly, I'm not sure fixed even applies. She lied. The truth came out, and he doesn't want contact. That's harsh to say, but I don't think he's entirely wrong here. She apologized to me, but she's still very down and not talking like before. The house feels quiet and tense. Even though she's back, Joe has me blocked. I don't know if he blocked her too. If he did, that explains a lot. She can't even reach him to apologize. If she asks, I'll probably suggest contacting one of his friends to pass along a message. Awkward, sure, but at least it's a way to talk. I'm also curious what his dad thinks of her plan. She hasn't discussed that with me. Technically, her plan worked. Joe graduated and got a degree, but now he doesn't want to speak to her. It all boomerang. That's sad because I know how much she loves her son and how important his education was to her. Now it's chaos, and there's no one to blame but herself. Update 3. 2 days since she came home. She's been quiet and off. Today we finally talked through everything since Joe's graduation. She apologized again for promising him my business without asking me. I said okay. I thought that was it, but she broke down crying mid-conversation. I hugged her and tried to comfort her, but she sobbed for nearly an hour, saying she was sorry, that she disappointed everyone, that she wanted to be a better wife and mother, and failed at both. It was hard to see how shattered she was. I felt awful for not checking on her while she was at her sister's. Yes, it was her fault, but she's still my wife, and I should have tried to help. When she calmed down, I asked what I could do. She said she wants most of all to talk to Joe and fix things. But as I suspected, he's blocked her everywhere, and she doesn't have his friends' numbers. She tried going through her ex, but he said Joe doesn't want to talk and refused to help. Told her it's her problem to solve. I told her I'd find a way, and started digging through social media. Figured out who Joe's closest friends are. Remembered one guy he was especially tight with, and found his account. I messaged him, explained what happened, and begged him to call Joe and connect us. An hour later, my wife got a call from an unknown number. We figured it was Joe's friend. We answered, and it was Joe. I only heard my wife's side. She apologized over and over. It made me feel for her, because I know how much she loves him. They argued for a long time. She explained why she did what she did, and insisted he'd thank her someday for having a degree. She even said if she had to, she'd do it again to get him into college. She started getting heated. I could see the call going sideways. Her face went red, splotches on her neck. I tried to get her to hang up and resume later, but they kept going. It turned into a full-on shouting match. Joe yelling, my wife snapping back. I've never heard her speak to anyone like that, let alone her own son. She said awful things and ended by telling him he's just like his father. When the call ended, she was near hysterics and vented for 15 minutes about how awful her son is. I let her get it out. When she calmed down, I asked what Joe said. She admitted he called her a liar. She agreed and apologized, and then said she's a terrible mother who ruined his life by making him waste years in college instead of chasing his dream of being a musician, that she destroyed his dream, and he never wants to talk to her again because she's the most selfish, heartless person he knows, that pushed her over the edge because, in her mind, everything she did was for his future. She knows he'll never be a musician. Harsh as it sounds, he's just not that talented. He even struggles with basic notation. Most of his school band friends moved on. He was the only one still chasing an impossible dream. It was the same with her ex. She warned him not to open a new business while the old one was failing. He accused her of not supporting him. Fights escalated, and the marriage collapsed. That's what she meant when she told Joe he's like his father. She said she's always tried to protect her son from mistakes that could wreck his future, but now she sees there's no point. He's so blinded by illusions, he can't tell good from bad. If he wants to paint her as the villain, fine, she won't keep trying. She's tired of being blamed for everyone's failures, her son's and her ex's. It was a brutal day for her emotionally, but at least she tried to repair things. Even if it went badly, she messed up, then tried to fix it. If he doesn't appreciate that, that's on him. She calmed down, and we had dinner. She hasn't mentioned Joe or her ex since. She's asleep now. I hope tomorrow is easier. Update 4. Hi all. It's been almost a week since my wife stopped talking to her son. Today her ex called. Joe wants to talk, and she must come to their place alone because it's a family matter and I'm not family, so I should stay out of it. My wife stood firm. She'll come only with me, or not at all. She's not walking into their nonsense by herself. The ex relented, but made me promise not to interfere. Fine by me. I wasn't eager to talk to either of them anyway. When we arrived, they looked like they were ready to haul her into court. Serious faces meant to intimidate her. That doesn't work on my wife. We sat in the living room, and Joe immediately said that since his mother forced him to spend 3 years at college studying something he didn't care about, she now had to keep her promise and make me hand over my business. I'd promised not to speak, but I couldn't help it. I asked if they'd lost their minds. That's never happening. Not now, not later, even if he someday becomes capable, because by now I'm simply disappointed in him as a person. He's not my son, and I owe him nothing. I said it right to his face. His father exploded, told me to shut up, that I had no right to get involved. That got under my skin. This is my catering business, so of course I have a say. We argued a bit until my wife stopped me, and I decided it wasn't worth it. I just shot him a look and went quiet. Joe kept insisting Mom should talk me into giving him the business, or he'd cut her off for good. I expected my wife to waver, but she didn't. Made me proud. She told Joe she wasn't doing that. If he can't be grateful that she helped him secure a future, that's on him. But he doesn't get to make demands. She apologized for lying. That's where it ends. She doesn't owe him anything more. She was trying to take care of him. If he can't appreciate it, maybe he really should cut contact. Then her ex threatened to sue if she didn't fulfill her promise. She laughed in his face and asked whether any lawyer would even take a case like that with no contract or written agreement. He floundered and told us to get out of his house. We did. As we got in the car, Joe yelled more insults at his mother. We ignored him and left. We're home now, and hoping this is the end of it, that we won't have to see them again. Today was a pointless drain of nerves and energy. Well, that's the lot. It's a pretty divisive story. Some of you will say the mother did the right thing, pushing her son into college. Personally, I think she handled it badly. If someone doesn't want to put in the work, what can you do? So he finished that program. And then what? Will he actually get moving now? Hard to believe. Judging by the circus he's running with his mom. On the other hand, who knows? Maybe it helps him in some way. I'm reminded of the film Hillbilly Elegy. There's a moment where J.D. screams that he hates his grandma when she's trying to straighten him out, and she basically says, "You don't have to love me, just become someone." Maybe that's what the mom tried here. Sad that the relationship is broken, but maybe not forever, and maybe he'll get something out of this. Still, I wouldn't have done it. I'd have let him try to find himself. No guarantee the degree will change anything. As for the business, the father, OPD, is absolutely right. You don't just drop a green kid into the driver's seat. You need experience and judgment, and even seasoned staff aren't always ready to run the whole thing. It takes aptitude. What do you think? Drop your take in the comments. Thanks for listening to the end. Check out our previous videos right here, and don't forget to subscribe if you somehow haven't yet. Good luck.